A massive car bomb exploded outside of a large federal building in downtown Oklahoma City, shattering that building.
On April 23, 1968, Timothy McVeigh was born in Pendleton, New York. He grew up in a blue-collar family and was the middle child of two sisters. However, while he was growing up, his parents went through a divorce. His parents told him and his two sisters that they could pick who they wanted to live with. Timothy was upset at his mother for the divorce and thought she was the one who caused it, so he decided to live with his father. He would use his computer skills to learn how to hack, and he was able to break into a defense department's computer system. He was in the graduating class of 1986, and after graduating, he proceeded to go into a local business college. His gun obsession grew even further. His obsession grew to the point that he believed that one day the United States government would revoke the Second Amendment of the Declaration of Independence, which allows the U.S. citizen to keep and bear firearms. While his gun obsession was growing, he also delved into another hobby, which is reading books about survivalism. One of the books that I read was called The Turner Diaries, which is a racist, neo-Nazi book about the bombing on a building in Washington, D.C. In 1988, Timothy made the decision to join the military. While he was serving, he earned a reward, which is a Bronze Star for his bravery in the Persian Gulf War. After 3 years of serving in 1991, Timothy would leave the military and go back to his home state, New York. Once he returned, he tried to look for a job. However, he was unable to find any work. He would be able to find work eventually with a group of old friends who were Terry Nichols and Michael Fortier, who he knew from the military. The group would go around to different fairs in the United States and sell guns. In March 1993, Timothy drove to witness an ongoing FBI siege of the Branch Davidian compound in Waco, Texas. Timothy thought the government should make the siege that the FBI were doing illegal. This would lead Timothy and his two friends to contacting members of the militia groups who were around in the Midwest. In September 1994, after being inspired by the members of the militia groups, Timothy would plan to bomb a building in Oklahoma City called the Alfred P. Mora Federal Building. Timothy told Terry about his plan and he was on board with it. During the course of 6 months, the two planned the bombing. They got several amounts of ammonium nitrate fertilizer, which can help fuel a bomb to explode. Finally, on April 19, 1995, their plan was put into action. That morning, Timothy drove a rented truck containing a bomb into the front parking lot of the building, proceeded to abandon the truck, and make his way to a getaway car. At 9:02 a.m., the bomb went off, and immediately the calm, peaceful morning turned into a fiery scene with rubble collapsing from the building. However, even worse was that 168 people lost their lives that day, and 19 of those victims were children. It was reported that around 850 people were also injured from the attack. The FBI arrived at the upsetting scene and started their investigation. A day after the bombing, the rear axle of the rented truck was found, which contained the vehicle identification number, which was traced back to a body shop in Junction City, Kansas. The employees there were interviewed, and together they helped the FBI to sketch a pretty similar depiction of Timothy, which besides that haircut, I think they did a pretty good job. The FBI went around the town and went to see if any businesses had seen him, and a hotel said that someone who looked like that stayed at a hotel. The hotel said the name of this person was Tim McVeigh. After receiving this name on April 21st, the FBI made a call to Bureau's Criminal Justice Information Services Division, and they gave them the potential suspect's name. They looked up the name, and it turned out that Timothy was already in jail. He was pulled over 80 miles north of Oklahoma City by a state trooper because he had noticed that the car had a missing license plate. The trooper eventually discovered that Timothy also had a concealed weapon. It turns out that he was arrested only an hour and a half after the bombing, and only 2 days after the bombing, Timothy was taken into federal custody. An investigation was launched on Timothy, and it led the FBI to connect a bunch of evidence connecting him to the bombing. There were chemicals from the bombing on his clothing, and a business card was also found with handwriting that said TNT at $5 stick, need more, which probably meant that he needed more materials to build the bomb. They would also eventually discover that Terry helped build the bomb, and apparently Michael found out about this, but he decided not to tell anybody. The FBI wanted to make sure they had the right people, so there's an entire list of all the evidence they collected, but here it is. They gathered more than 3 tons of evidence, did 28,000 interviews, followed more than 43,000 leads, they searched over 13.2 million hotel registration records, they looked over 3.1 million truck rental records, and they looked at more than 682,000 airline reservation records. At the time of the bombing, Terry was at his home in Harrington, Kansas. 2 days after the bombing, Terry went to the Harrington police station in Kansas. He said he was watching the news, and he saw that he was a material witness. Now, a material witness is someone who bears information on a case. Terry's brother James was also identified as a material witness, however the charges against him were soon dropped. And 2 hours into his questioning, a warrant was sent out for his arrest. However, 7 more hours of questioning was conducted on Terry before he was arrested for connections with the bombing. In August 1995, Timothy and Terry were charged with the bombing. The court would seek the death penalty for both of them. Timothy's trial would begin in April 1997. During the trial, Michael would testify against him because of a plea bargain. Eventually, the jury would give Timothy the verdict, which was the death penalty. He was scheduled to be sentenced to death on June 13th, 1997. Later that same year, Terry was found guilty of 8 counts of involuntary manslaughter and conspiracy, and he was given life in prison. Timothy's sentencing would be delayed for almost 4 years until finally on June 11th, 2001, Timothy was given the death penalty by lethal injection. Luckily, the building where the tragic bombing happened was rebuilt and turned into a museum, and right behind the building lies a memorial right by a pond to honor the 168 lives that were lost on April 19th, 1995.